Hello, welcome to week 12 already of RiSE, the podcast. This is a podcast that is for the entrepreneur. RiSE stands for Rise Up, Inspire and Impact Socially Aware Entrepreneurs. And that's what we do each week. We talk to entrepreneurs that are making a difference for the good on the planet, whether it's the environment, whether it's social causes, whether it's health, whether it's impacting the just how we learn, how we grow, how we work together, how we do community, how we do, how we work with kids, how we work with our elders. So this is a show that's all about making a difference. And today our guest is Rob Anderson. And you're probably going, Rob Anderson, where do I know that name from? Yeah, you probably don't, but after today you will. He's a business consultant based in the Greater Toronto area, and he's also into graphic design and film. And he helps people and business owners tell their stories so that they can start to think better of themselves. And we're just going to have a jam session today and see what's what in business today. So welcome, Rob Anderson, all the way from your place in downtown Toronto. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing spectacular. Thank you very much for having me on, David. It's a pleasure. It's not the first time we've talked, and I'm, very grateful that we've developed a friendship over the past few months. So it's an honor to be on your show. And yeah, I was just having a wonderful day, and all things considered, there's a lot going on in the world. So just being grateful for the little things, and looking forward to having a chat with you here today. So thanks again for having me on.
A joy. And, we just saw each other live and in person a couple of weeks ago. I think it was Halloween Day, and it was a beautiful day. And we were sitting outside in Starbucks in the Forest Hill Village having a chat and a coffee. And then out of that chat, we said, yeah, I got to have you on my show. So here we are a few weeks later, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the, you're in your work as business consultant in video and in production and helping people tell their stories. What have you noticed? Why has storytelling become so popular in the past, 3 to 5 years? The Pixar spine storytelling formula has really come into vogue with entrepreneurs. Why do entrepreneurs need to really be mindful of telling their story, and how can they enhance that storytelling?
Well, it's this great question, and I think recently, so how they can enhance their story. I'll start off with that, and then kind of circle back around to it. But authenticity. That's one thing that in the business world in the past has never been present. Things were swept under the rug. Big corporations, family businesses, things like that. Like there was no authenticity. It's like, oh, you're having a bad day, suck it up, Buttercup. You're at work. There was no room for mental health or having the real discussions. It was like people put on this false airs. Is that the word I'm looking for? Or
Yeah.
like the false front, that everything's always fine, and so there was no genuine connection. I felt a lot of it, and that obviously in corporations, but now as that changes, that landscape changes, telling your story is what is going to allow you to connect with your tribe, the people that are going to be your clients and customers, or partners. If you can't be authentic, then what are you doing out there? Like, you're gonna wake up one day and realize you've been living a lie. So authenticity and storytelling from the heart is important, because yeah, sure, maybe you think that telling somebody publicly that the toughest time of your life that you went through might push away some customers, like, oh no, we can't let them know that, but it's going to draw the right ones. Somebody's going to be out there and be like, wow, I heard that time about when you're going through a divorce, or your dad died, or whatever it is, and you were so open and honest. Those are what people are going to connect with people, right? And I think now more than ever, I personally am just tired of these faceless, entities as corporations, and it's like it's people working with people, and that's the storytelling, is to reconnect with ourselves as humans, and to realize that, hey, we all have, no man, woman, or child is can escape the vicissitudes of life. Life happens to us all, and our stories are a lot more similar than they are different. So we don't have to pretend that things And that's where you can have those real honest conversations, and that's where real progress and real connection is made, is saying like, oh yeah, I had to go through that same thing that you did. How did it work? Did you notice this? Yeah, I did. And like, what, how did you get through this part? Oh, I tried this. Oh, I should try that. So that's how you're going to make those real connections. And I think now more than ever, it's forcing people to be honest. And I think, you know, COVID hitting, it was really tough for me at first to try and I was like, oh no, I'm fine. It's, you know, but like, and then you start talking to small business owners and seeing how negatively it impacted so many people. And it's like, wow, yeah, like these honest conversations are really good to have. So,
Yeah, and it did impact us. And, you know, like to the point where, you know, people had to close their doors, or the uncertainty of the regulations, and even, I'm going to say, some of the nonsense of it. Um, and then just the economic uncertainty, and now on top of it, we've got rising costs and inflation, and we also have supply chain shortages. So here, entrepreneur, deal with that. So what are you seeing in the entrepreneurs that you're dealing with? What's on their mind? What's the state of entrepreneurship? Because we've really been beaten down in the past 20, almost 21 months. We've really been beaten down. What trends and things are you noticing in those entrepreneurs that you're working with, Rob?
well, it's so, you know, having friends that are entrepreneurs and similar clients and things like that, like when it first hit, it was like, okay, gigs canceled, all this video work or photography shoots or whatever. That was a tough pill to swallow, and it was like, okay, that it is what it is. And then it was okay, well, shift. So let's like try to find the blessing here. You know, what is the silver lining? So okay, maybe I should start transitioning my business to online, and a lot of people trying to do that, and that's all fine and dandy, but people really just missing that genuine huge human connection is huge. And so it's like, okay, well, when do we get back to doing things in person? And okay, yeah, that's looking fine now if you've got the what is it, the triple jab, so it's fine, those people can go back. But for the people who you know, who aren't jabbed, it's like, okay, well, what does that look like for us now? So are we shifting focuses, or are we really finding our tribe? And there, I like the Facebook group. I haven't even checked recently, but like there was over 100,000 Ontario businesses that were against the vaccine passport, health pass, or whatever. So well, it's like, okay, well then those, we know that there's a good starting point of people that maybe that's the people that I should maybe be focusing on, that I resonate with, that are doing that. So it's really finding, maybe I think it's caused entrepreneurs to have to shift their business, but also in a clients, it's like maybe some of these people that were your clients weren't ideal anyways. They were either problem clients or people that were high maintenance, or you're just not on the same level with anymore. So it's been tough. I know that people who really enjoy, like, you know, you doing trainings and in-person stuff, it's like, yeah, enough's enough with the Zoom's great, but it's like, I think everybody's got a little bit of what they call Zoom fatigue now, and it's like, you know, let's open it back up, and you know, let everybody get back to business as usual in some sense.
Yeah, some people, even, you know, if they've had the medication, are still reluctant to meet in person. So I believe it's going to be a while till it's, you know, all systems go. So I think we'll see a hybrid. Tell me if you feel this too, of like in person and online. What's your take?
Yeah, I think so. And like those, like, just let's get back to giving people the freedom of choice. Like that's like, if you want to stay home and you're scared, that's fine. You can work from the office. And I know I was reading on LinkedIn the other day, it was like a survey of companies about how many people want to stay working from home and how many people want to get back to the office, or how many people want both. And there's no one size fits all answer. And that's the problem that has been we've been faced with the past couple of years, is that it's like, this is how it has to be. This is the one, like the one health answer, the you know, the
Yeah,
magic
science
word.
says, you know, Dr.
Yeah,
Fauci says, and if he said it, you better listen, right?
yeah. And so that's like, without getting into like that whole thing, it's just everybody is different. We're all different beings. We all like different things. We all want different things. We all come at it from different levels of awareness, different levels of consciousness, different fear levels. So it's like, yeah, if people want to go back to the office, and let them, and it's like, let the businesses go, and like there's to like have these mandates, and it's just, I'm grateful that I didn't have I see friends and family who are restaurant owners and like retail owners, and man, they, I feel bad for them because it's like I don't even know, like I just talking with them as a business case and like case studies, it's like, whew, like some of them I've just realized that like how strong they are to deal with all that extra nonsense, like having their, if you own a restaurant, it's like now your employees have to be like asking to see personal health information at the door and stuff like that, and some of them are just like walking off the job. And so yeah, it's interesting. I think we just got to let it go back, and it's like if you want to get a jab every week to make you feel safe and wear 14 masks, that's fine, you can do that, but let the people who don't want to do those things, let us go back. It's like health is a personal decision, and the overall public health, like it's weird that people talk about that, but it's not collectively, it's just a collective fear mongering. It's not that. So let's talk about public health. Everybody locked inside wearing masks in their own homes, in their own cars, is not good for public health.
No, it's not. And, even on my walks, I see people, with masks. I'm going, what gives? Take a break. You're outside. You're not going to get anything. So, yeah, I want to go back to this other trend we talked about right at the beginning with small business owners. And I think, what I'm also sensing is small business owners have to do things differently moving forward. And you alluded to this power of storytelling. And storytelling, I feel, connects you with your exact target audience or tribe or your niche, your community. What's your take on that? Like the power of storytelling is that it's that human connection. We've lost that. We need that back, but it also connects you to your exact tribe, your exact niche market. What's your take on that, Rob?
Yeah, I agree 100%, because it's like with the being authentic and telling your true honest self, like who you are at your essence, and not fearing the outcomes, and not fearing, oh, if I say this I might lose this contract, or like just being authentic and knowing that nothing good gets away. So whatever's meant for you will be, and that's overcoming a level of fear. And it was hard for me. It's hard for me. Like I'm still learning, and that's basically what it is it's a teach learn thing. And that's how life goes. Like the things that I'm learning, I teach. How I went through it, and from an honest, authentic, genuine place, so that it allows other people to say, hey, this guy's human. He's not just some enigma, like like everybody is like, oh, not everybody's Richard Branson, where it's just like this fairy tale, like like hustle every day, like nothing affects me, and I'm just gonna be a multi, like that's not everybody. There's trials, tribulations, heartbreaks, blood, sweat, and tears, and to like see those and have like, and I know that in the startup world and entrepreneur, especially the past 10 years, like with Shark Tank and whatever, Dragon's Den and all that stuff, there's almost like there was this stigma around it where people weren't allowed to show weakness or be authentic about it, because it was just this snowball of like just kept on growing and growing and growing, and it was like it was like a runaway train. It was like not everything's about that. It's not about just scaling and growing. It's about human connection, and how, like, I saw this one really interesting thing. It was on I was watching TV. I don't watch TV very often, but it came up, and it was this company that they've been around for 36 years, and in that time they've never laid off or fired anybody, and so they all try to like have growth internally, and if somebody leaves, it's all on good terms. And I was just like, yeah, like that's what we need to get back to, and that's where you really have a place of authenticity and understanding. So the storytelling now is like, you never know. Your one of your biggest clients might be sitting out there who, maybe he was an alcoholic before, and he wasn't sure of who to do business with. And then, I'm not an alcoholic, but if I was authentic in telling my story, saying that, some people wouldn't say that, and then this guy sees and says, hey man, that Rob guy knows exactly what I went through. I want him to do my next thing. So it's your authenticity and being genuine in your storytelling, that's going to connect you with the people that are meant for you.
Really like that, and I agree. And I like the Pixar spine formula. Have you heard of that? It's kind of quirky, but it works. And it's kind of like, once upon a time there was Rob Anderson, and then one day Rob got up and left the corporate life and decided to live a more authentic life, and he opened up his own business. And because of that, this happened, and because of that, this happened. And now here's Rob, with his own, corporate, consulting company, and he does, videos and helps other people tell their stories, and now it's happy ever after. And people are using that. I'm seeing some business owners using that Pixar spine formula, storytelling formula on their websites. They're using it as their intros or pitches at a networking event, and this is online. And I think that kind of formula of storytelling or one close to it is really important, because it's going to cut through the massive clutter that we're all seeing these days, right, online. And when you can be and position yourself a little differently from someone else and be authentic with your story, that's, I think, where traction is going to happen. What's your take?
Yeah, I agree 100%, because it's like, for me, myself personally, like, not only when I choose to do business with people, I can tell when people are inauthentic. Like, you can sense vibration, you can sense somebody's energy. So like, if you feel like they're lying, or like, I used to work at a startup, and the sales, it was kind of a very toxic salesy thing, a lot of the time. And people were talking, oh yeah, you should see how I closed this guy, and like, I told him this, and he was like, no, and I objection handled him, and like redirected him, and spin selling this. And I was like, if your clients ever heard how you spoke about them behind their back, you wouldn't have any. And so it's like, instead of that mentality, it's like, let's just be open and honest. And it's like, if we're meant to work together, then we'll connect. And if not, that's fine. I'm not for everybody, and not everybody's for me, and that's okay.
Yeah. What about love in a business context then? Because that's what I'm hearing you say. Underneath all this, it's like, we need to maybe love on one another, again, and we need to bring back, love and caring and kindness and that human touch, because the flip side of that is we're moving into this technology like AI really super fast, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like high tech or high touch, and I sense you're more high touch. Do you want to speak a little bit about that and the distinction between the two worlds? Because I think the two worlds need to operate with more cooperation. Can't have one without the other. What's your feeling?
Well, yeah, and you alluded to that. Like, now they've got the metaverse thing coming out, and that's like Zoom on steroids. It's like, no, like, we want to get back to like doing things in person. I want to give people 23-second hugs. I want to feel their energy. I want to connect with them. It's like, hey, maybe we'll have a cry together. Maybe we'll have a laugh together. Like, that's and that to me is most important. And yeah, technology is great. Sure, like, I can talk with people all across the world at the flick of a switch, and that's amazing. Yeah. But now that we don't have the option really to do the other, it really creates that, you just realize how much you miss it, and how valuable it actually was. Because I don't want to just do business with screens. I want to, I want to do things in person, and it's great to be able to work from home too, but like, I miss going into the office once a week or twice a week if you wanted to. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I just like, we are here living on earth as the human experience. I don't know what happens after, where our spirit goes after we die, but like, I don't want to be in a fucking fictitious universe. I know that this life is real. It's great. I want more life here on earth while I'm here, not more, oh, I'm VR goggles. Like, who cares? Like, I don't want to be stuck in VR goggles in meetings. I want to be having those meetings in person, as much as I can. Don't get me wrong. It's fine that we're meeting on Zoom today, but we went for coffee in real life couple times this summer, so that that's great. But yeah, so I don't know, like, I've always thought that technology is great, but is it it's like anti-social media in some ways. It's like, yeah, we're all connected online, and people think they know how you're doing based on what the posts they see and stuff, and nobody checks in with you in person anymore, or even a phone call. It's like, oh yeah, he's doing fine, like, but so yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. I think you have to balance it, right?
Do you think we'll see a split between the two worlds? Like, like a real split. Like there will be people like you and I who are more heartfelt. We want that personal connection, that personal touch, more authenticity, more truth, being real with one another. And then we'll also see that other side of, and I'm okay with being distant. I'm okay with being online. I'm okay with technology, and not having to show my real self. Do you think that's kind of what the future might hold, Rob?
I don't know. Like that's you said something before, and it kind of made me think about something about like how a lot of in the world in the past it was like, oh, it's nothing personal, it's just business, and to me it's like, no, it's all personal. Like business is a byproduct of the personal stuff. It's an extension of that, and like to me it's like how you treat people is everything. So it's all personal. It's like how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're an asshole in your business life and you just use that as a scapegoat, it's not business, it's personal, that's just an excuse to fuck people over and be like, oh, it's just business. Like that's not how I roll. That's not how the new earth is going to operate. These faceless entities known as corporations, and then we have governments, which are just basically corporations masquerading as governments. And so yeah, I think there's a huge shift coming. I don't know if we'll be separated into two worlds per se. Yeah, maybe, but I like to think that we're all one people, and we're all connected on that level. And so it's just another form of segregation that we're seeing here, and it's super toxic. It's like, okay, well, we can't divide people on race, color, ethnicity, religion, so let's divide them on, jabbed and unjabbed. And so, but it's like, to me, it doesn't matter. I'll go stand on the street corner and just hug every single person. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want people to be not living in fear, and I want, I just want people are going to wake up to that, hey, like, I'm going to be okay. Like, it's been way blown out of proportion, and I'm not here to be a doomsday prophesizer or be like, okay, yeah, like it was handled very poorly by the governments, and who knows if there's some evil agenda. I don't prescribe necessarily to that, but it's the fact that now we have people, like you said, people are like, how hard is it going to be to convince people that to take the masks off? Some people, like for me, I don't care because I don't want to wear one in the first place, but there's people out there that, like the people with wearing one in their car by themselves, like how much extra work are you going to have to go to convince those people that it's okay to leave their house? I know people that were like have hardly left their house and stuff like that. Like it's crazy. So I just hope that I hope that we all come together, and it's like we don't need these things to divide us any further.
Yeah, I agree. And just you gotta live, and
Yeah.
living means you might die and you might get sick. And we talked about that before we started recording today's show. And you with your thumb and me with the toe issue, and it's like there was fear. You had fear around losing a thumb with fixing your motorbike. And
Yeah.
I had fear with almost losing a toe. But eventually it does heal enough. It's never the same, but it heals enough that you can carry on.
Yeah.
And you can't live in fear, because my view is if you live in fear, you're going to attract what it is you're fearful about.
Yeah.
Is that what came up for you, for example, when you had the accident with the thumb and the motorbike chain?
Yeah, well, that was like even just riding motorcycle too, like the danger of it's not lost on me. Like this one time at one of the shared offices I worked at, like this girl kind of like started a conversation with me, and it was like, well, it's already kind of like a condescending tone that she started it with. She's like, motorcycles are dangerous, and I was like, well, no, they're not. Like, no object is dangerous, and like, yeah, you can get in an accident on them, but they're not inherently dangerous themselves, just sitting there. She's like, oh, my grandpa calls them death machines, and I was like, oh, I call them life machines, and she's like, why? And I was like, because I never feel more alive than when I'm riding it, and it's like very meditative. But every time it's like I have to face that fear and get over it, and I've been, I've lost the top part of my thumb in a maintenance accident, like you said, and I've gotten like a guy did an illegal U-turn in front of me, and I T-boned him, and like I still get up and I still do it. I know that it's dangerous. I face the fear and do it anyways. And that's that. Even when the day that I severed my thumb off, the first thing I got home did when I got home is I went up to my motorcycle and I grabbed the fucking chain, and I was like, oh, like it's not. I know it's not the bike's fault. It was just my fault. It was like kind of like a freak accident. I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing. I was rushing. I was letting my, the world get to me. I was not present in the moment. I was somewhere else, and so that what that made me realize is that yeah, like it to take a step back and take a deep breath and stop rushing through my life. And I at certain points we kind of goes up and then you plateau, but like I had become, I was usually pretty laid back, and then at that point I'd become wound a little too tight because of fear that oh, this isn't going to work out, that's going to work not going to work out. So yeah, now I feel like I've lost the initial point of your question, but yeah, the fear, just overcoming it is having faith. It made me just have faith that life goes on.
Yeah, and to let go. So
Yeah.
this kind of brings up a new point. If we're running a business and we want to run more spiritually heart-centered businesses, what are maybe 5 elements that we need to integrate to have these spiritually centered, heart-centered businesses? We've already talked a bit about authenticity,
Yeah.
relationship, managing our health, managing fear. Anything else that comes to mind if we're going to, move forward in 2022 and do things a little differently, a little more heart-centered and more spiritually aligned? What
Yeah.
do we need to do, Rob?
Well, I think like I kind of alluded to it about how it's not business, it's personal. That needs to be thrown out the window. Like Wallace Wattles in Science of Getting Rich talks about, Jones of Toledo and the Golden Rule. Like treat other people the way you want to be treated, and it's that simple. Like so having that allowance for life to just happen, and understanding like letting things happen as they may, and understanding that other people have their own situations. Like you can't be the kind of person that's sitting there being like, oh, this guy didn't get back to me when I expected he should, like grr, like it's like who knows what's going on in that person's life. Let the universe, give the universe space, the balanced reciprocal interchange, like let it go. Let you put it out there, let it go and wait for it to come back. And if it doesn't come back, it wasn't meant for you. And so I would say just treating everybody else the way you want to be treated. And so that really is like, take the business out of it, because it's all personal. It's all how we treat people in this life is gonna, if there is a next life, it's gonna affect that. So you're not gonna get away, if there is a, like I believe in karma. I believe it's a real thing. So it's not like you can go around treating people like shit and feel like it's not gonna come back to you, because it is. And so yeah, it's not just business. It's all personal. And so treat people like that. Like treat people that the same way you would that all your family. There's no special relationships. We're all brothers and sisters. And so to realize that spiritual connection, that when you do something negative to somebody else, you're hurting yourself just as much as them, even if you don't realize it. And some people, whoever's out there listening, they might not believe me, but one day you'll be like, now I know what he said, because it'll come back around. Whatever we judge, we will experience. Whatever we, and to put to your point is that I always say this, because I was talking about with a friend, and getting out of that fear thing is like, she said that the universe is always watching, and I was like, yeah, I used to agree with that more, but I think the universe is always responding. So because the universe is always watching, it makes it seem like it's like God looking down on you, judging, but the universe is just responding. So if you're living from like you said, if you're living from a fear-based mentality, you're going to attract more of that, or not necessarily attract it, but be in alignment with it. Like if you're out there thinking like, oh, people are assholes and like the world's going to hell in a handbasket and there's no hope, that's what you're going to see. The world's going to give that to you because you're out there looking for it. But if you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, like today's beautiful, I'm grateful just to be alive and to just go take a walk and turn off the incessant thinking, and just be present in the moment. And like Eckhart Tolle, like, being the observer, that's when you really get to connect spiritually. And that's when you're going to start seeing business opportunities shift, where they're just going to come to you naturally, where you're not going to have to, it's not going to feel so forced. Like you're not going to be sitting there making cold calls and saying, oh, like nobody, like it's not going to be negative. It's just the universe is, and I like that a friend said this, is he didn't really like the law of attraction. He said it's the law of alignment. It's just, you're going to be vibrating and you're going to see those things because you're on that level, and you don't necessarily attract things, because you can sit there and be like, oh yeah, like the law of attraction or manifestation, just think about what you want and it's going to come. No, like I can't be like, oh, I want $1 million right now and it's going to manifest. No, you have to be ready and be in alignment and say, hey, like maybe at that point, if you're in alignment with it, maybe I'll find $1 million deal. Whereas if I didn't think I was worthy of that or on that level, it would have passed me by. That opportunity would have never been, it might have been presented to me, but would I have capitalized on it? Probably not, because I wasn't in alignment with that vibration, right?
Yeah. So a couple of things I heard there in terms of doing your business from a more spiritually heart-centered. You also mentioned Eckhart Tolle and the importance of being in the now. And I think that's really another key point in terms of how we need to run our businesses is be here now. And you alluded to it too with the accident you had with the motorbike. You weren't present, right, at that time, and then the accident happened. And talk to us a little bit about this idea of being fully present, because I don't think we are all the time. I think we're in our heads, we're in the past, where well, that one said something to me, or what's going to be in the future. Talk to us about the power of being in the present moment and how that can play out in a business context or even in a life context, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, so thank you. Great question. And I think the power of being present in the moment, which is lost on a lot of people, is like the saying goes, most people aren't listening. Um, they're not actively listening. They're listening with the intent to respond. So they've already they're sitting there judging what you're going to say, and it's already, got energy behind it before you even. So to be present in the moment is to just almost detach your emotions, your judgments, your assumptions, expectations, and say, okay, just let the world in. And I liked what Eckhart said. I was watching a thing he did a couple weeks ago, and he said meditation isn't about sitting still and meditating. That's not even the point. It's like, how long can you go without having a thought? And so I think of like when I tried that, I was like, that's interesting. And so I heard somewhere somebody say, try that when you close your eyes and you're meditating and say, I wonder what my next thought will be. And I was like, holy geez, like, and then you're sitting there waiting for the thought and there are no thoughts. And I thought that was super powerful. So being present in the moment and not judging and just accepting, and maybe it's something simple like, like you get this call that was unexpected and you're like, I don't have time for this. But maybe today you shift your focus a little bit and just be open to that, saying, okay, well, you know what, maybe I'll let the universe, this happened unexpectedly, but let me take it in without judgment. Or, like one morning I had I do creative scheduling, so I schedule my morning, and most of my time in the morning is dedicated to my 3 meetings for me. So I go for my morning walk, I do my yoga, and then I do my reading and writing every day. So my first 3 appointments are always in my calendar with myself, me, myself, and I. And I read that in an article years ago about a gentleman who he said that was the number one thing he learned about being self-employed, was that it doesn't matter, like nobody has to know. So he never scheduled a business meeting before 10 a.m. And if anybody asked, he just had meetings. He doesn't have to explain to it. But if you can't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to help anybody. And that resonated with me so much. So being present in the moment, it kind of comes, you're going to see opportunities that weren't there before. And I use this example is that you never know who's like the millionaire next door. Not every, like if you're somebody who's one of my friends, they do financial planning and stuff, and we were talking about like high net worth clients and stuff, and I know some people who have a lot of money, but you couldn't tell. They don't look like, if you lined up 10 people, you probably couldn't pick the millionaires out of that lineup, right? Based on, the people who are usually often the most flashy dressed or driving the Mercedes aren't necessarily the ones who have the high net worth. So being present in the moment would allow you to just be open and have a conversation with these people to find out the answers before you just judge, being like, okay, this guy who's just in a t-shirt and jeans with the hole in the knee, oh, like, no, there's no way he's a high net worth client. That would be not an example of not living in the moment. But if you just said, okay, hey, like, and got to chatting with him and have that conversation and then discover that about him, that's being present in the moment and just turning off the internal dialogue and that incessant that we have going and running. And like you and I talk about going for walks, it took me a long time, and I read The Power of Now earlier this year, and it helped me tremendously. Even, I think like you go through on your awakening, or whatever you want to call it, your spiritual, there's going to be points of tension and then release. And like, even myself, I always try to have books like that at hand, and I think I'm living it. But things come to you at the right time, and reading that book and just realizing how to be the observer and just go out and be appreciate, digest everything with love in a way. Like everything, if you ever took the stance that everything's okay, like even all the bad that's happening in the world, it makes you appreciate the good. So like, to not be affected by what's going on and just be present in the moment, it takes practice, and I'm still working on it, right?
Yeah. What the last thing I think I want to talk about is, well, there's two. Um, uh, Letting go of judgment too. How does that play out in a business context, or in terms of enhancing our relationships, not only with self, because we judge ourselves, but when we judge like a client, or as you alluded to the millionaire, we have a preconceived notion in our mind of what they're supposed to look like. And
Yeah.
then, so talk to us a little bit about, judgment, because to me, judgment is you got one finger pointed at somebody. Whoa, there we go. Three are back at you.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. And the way I see it is that you have to realize that most people, if not everybody, even if they don't seem like it at the time, everybody's doing the best with what they've got. So we're all coming at life from different levels of consciousness, different levels of awareness, and like judging somebody, it's the same thing for like envy. It's like the opposite of judgment. Like when you see a homeless person, you're like, oh, that person's clearly like lazy. Well, you don't know that. That's just your little like tiny speck perspective of what you told yourself about that person. They have a whole history and story outside of what you think you know about them. And so it's the same thing with envy. It's like, oh, like I see that guy in that Ferrari, man, he must have the life. Yeah, but you don't know that like he's got a horrible relationship with his family, two ex-wives, and like, or maybe he's a drug dealer. That's how he got the car. You don't know like what the circumstance. So that like even that is the opposite of it. So when it comes back to judgment, is that I think that everything you judge, you will end up experiencing, and that's how karma works. It's like I felt that like you might not get it right away, but like that the world is gonna say, hey, remember that time you said, hey, look at that guy over there. Like I lost almost 100 pounds, and so I've been the overweight dude, and I've been made fun of. I've seen people make fun of other people, but it's like you don't know what that person's story is, and what we judge, we will eventually experience. That's kind of how karma is. It's like, well, it'll come back around to you eventually. So, it might not be now, but it will one day. So be careful of what you judge, and really, it's just such a narrow perspective. It's just a futile thing to do, and like the more, and none of us are in a position to do it.
Yeah, true. So we have a choice moving forward in 2022, because we're getting there. We're when this will air, middle of November, and we have we're 6 weeks away from wrapping up another tumultuous year. like 2020 wasn't enough. We'll give you 2021 just to
Yeah.
make our point. So we have a choice to make. We can connect to our heart, we can connect to our truth, we can connect to being more authentic, we can work on making better relationships, and we can practice some spiritual practices like being in the moment and not having judgment, and just being there for one another, and bringing love into the business equation. So we have that choice, or we can be more distance and business approach, and very technical and tactical, and sort of let technology be the guide. So we have a choice moving forward. Last thoughts. If you were to wave a magic wand, and we're doing this a year from now, what would you like to see have happen and change in terms of how we do business and how we do work?
Well, I've recently, so living in the moment and detaching from judgment, and just being gratitude. It's like, I always wonder, it's like, yeah, I look at it like, if I am the observer, whatever happens is meant to happen, but I think it's going to bring people closer together. I think in a year from now, people are going to, I think yeah, like I don't know. I thought we'd have a revolution by now or something. In some countries, it seemed like that. But I just want people to get along. Like we don't need to separate each other. Like less fear, more hugs. Let's get like open things back up and like and rethink the way health is like health has not been a priority. They talk about public health, but like saying, yeah, oh no, we'll take care of you, just we'll give you the jabs, this and that. No, let's get back to having people outside. Maybe let's rethink our cities, that's our green spaces, the way our like the 9 to 5 has got to be out at the door. Like there's so much proven data coming out of countries where they've tried 4 hour or 4 day or 5 day work week, or sorry, 4 day work weeks, or 6 hour work days and this and that. So I'd like to see a little more human approach to things, and yeah, getting back to not the way things were, because yeah, they were good in some ways, but there was also a lot of they were crap in a lot of ways too. So how can that look on the other side? How can we be more loving? How can we be more connected? How can we design a future for not just ourselves but the future generations that's going to be like, so this kind of crap never happens again, where we go like people locked inside their homes for an entire year. That's unacceptable. you know
Yeah.
and so just what I want is, yeah, that human connection to come back, because that's what it is. That's what's special about being here on earth. We don't need to be connected virtually. We need to be connected here on earth. Like, our spirits might move on after this world, so let's be in the flesh and enjoy it, and while we have it here, because nobody's promised tomorrow. So let's make the best of it, and you can't do that sitting at home binge watching Netflix on lockdown
Yeah.
with a mask on your face, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but where do you put the popcorn? Um, Rob Anderson, this is a beautiful chat we had today.
Agree.
That was our guest today on RiSE, the podcast. Rob Anderson, again, a business consultant, videographer, helping people tell their stories, helping people communicate their truth, their message, what's in their heart. It was a joy having you. And for those listening, it was a joy being here this week. I hope you enjoy what you're watching and listening to. You get us on YouTube and on our Mixcloud site, and you can interact with me on Facebook and LinkedIn. Until next week, have a really good week. Stay well, do well, and rise up.